Chairman, we've never had our meeting taped before on video. I mean, should we have a ruling on this?
Anyway, why don't we have the toast to Ireland?
That'd be fine.
Yeah, probably. I think it's appropriate now, since the trigger wants to take off his jacket.
And I'll go in now. Sorry,
And I think, in deference to Trigger, we should couple our toast to Ireland with the toast to the Queen as well. And then
Oh, yes.
Well, what I should do is that I shall now defer as chairman to chairman many times over and international ex-president and everything for Mr. O'Herlihy to kick off events in the toast department.
Make the toast.
I shall ask and request Mr. O'Herlihy to make the toast.
And I'm making a speech or a toast?
Or you can do both actually. You start with the toast.
Well, gentlemen, I'd ask you then to please be upstanding and join with me in two, since we have the subject, Her Majesty. In fact, I think we have two. Yes, Her Majesty this evening. Can I ask you to join with me in toast to Ireland and the Queen?
Ireland and the Queen.
Maybe bloody.
Well, all I can say is, Jared, there was a row, so you must have been.
Yeah.
Jared, if I recollect correctly, you were there briefly.
You then became emotional.
You became very emotional. Very emotional.
No, that was my 41
That was a different
AGM.
Well, that was the 41 AGM.
I can show you the photo.
No, thank you.
You're right. Well, anyway, last year, as you,
Luckily, Stephen was there, so he was.
Under matters arising. But until then. See you next Tuesday. That'll be lovely.
Moving swiftly.
Hail us.
Moisteness.
All of them. I now call upon.
I don't think we're entirely finished with the minutes. I don't think we're entirely finished with the minutes yet, with all respect, Chairman.
Well, if you do have other matters arising in relation to the minutes, you've been unusually silent.
Until
And I would say
now.
unusually silent. So your choice is matters arising, or if you want to do it.
Chairman, you can just tell me from
Well, I'm contemplating. So what I would say is, we're heading into the highlight of the evening, or low light, depending on your view.
Oh, the chairman's speech.
No, actually, in fact, I have warm-up act. Something I troll the depths of international after-dinner speakers with nothing else to do this evening to do. And as it turns out, the one who came up the most and who was the cheapest was someone we knew. So I would suggest a class act. But no, I must be honest. But retrieving myself from that particular position, I am delighted to say that Uncle Jared O'Herlihy has agreed to do our after-dinner speech, and he is now, because he's so emotional after that warm because I've gone out of my way to big him up. I give you Lord O'Herlihy.
the only
Be upset.
undefeated in 15 competitions.
Right.
I've got him here, yeah, great.
because I don't know whether many of you have been following the travails of Bobo in Dublin Zoo. You know that South American rhesus monkey, that female monkey. Have you been following this?
Following it?
You haven't been shagging that, Jared.
Absolutely delighted to tell you, gentlemen.
Hello, son.
No, quite not, but genuinely.
Bobo.
Bobo is alive. Bobo, as many of you clearly don't know, had a horrific situation whereby if she wasn't covered, I think is the appropriate word, what our chairman would say is shagged. Within 2 weeks it was going to die, and they'd searched throughout the world for a compatible male to find an appropriate partner for Bobo. And just 2 days ago there was a extraordinary general meeting of the zoo committee called, various proposals put forward, and finally one fellow stood up and he said, "Look, Chairman," he said, "I know it's a long shot," he said, "but why don't we ask Mick the gardener?" So they called Mick in and said, "Look, Mick, it's crisis proportions here," he said. "If someone doesn't shag that monkey, it's going to to die. For 500 euros, Mick, will you do the job on the monkey? And Mick, without hesitation, he said, there's no problem there, he said, but there'll be 3 conditions attached. And they said, shoot. He said, number 1, he said, there'll be no kissing. He said, we're entirely relaxed with that one, Mick. He said, number 2, he said, if there are any issue of this loving union, he said, they'll be brought up Roman Catholic, he said. And he said, number 3, can you give me about 48 hours to come up with a 500? As it's time for the retirement of the chairman this evening, I thought it would be appropriate to tell you the story of, well, many of you watching the Late Late Show, that retirement show that Gay had, when Gay was retiring from the Late Late. Did you see that? And he had all these different people who had retired, you know, from their various professions on that particular night. And he had one of them, this fella, extraordinarily called Mick. And
funny enough,
he was retiring from, many of you will remember those downstairs toilets in O'Connell Street. Remember those ones that you with the gents?
Well, the chairman will anyway.
For the film centre.
He'd been 48 years the toilet attendant in the gents' toilet on O'Connell Street, and Gay asked him all the usual questions, and finally got to the obvious question. He said, have things changed much over the years, Mick? And he says, oh, Jesus, Gay, it isn't at all the same now these days. He said, you know, these days you have these druggies, Gay, coming into the cubicles, and they're shooting themselves up and all that. And if it isn't the druggies, Gay, it's those homosexuals, Gay. You know, they're playing with themselves. He says, to be honest with you, Gay, if a fella comes in for a shite these days, he says, it's like a breath of fresh air. I love the story, gentlemen, of the fellow in Cork, and he went into the priest in the church, in the village church, and he went into confession, and he says, bless me, Father, he says, for I have sinned, he says, I've had sexual relations, he says, with a girl from the village. And Father O'Brien said, that would be Mary McNamara, would be. He says, I'm not going to tell you who the hell it was. He said, that was Margaret O'Keeffe then, was it? He said, I'm not telling you who it was. It was Deirdre McCarthy then, was it? He said, I'm not prepared to divulge who the girl was. Fair enough, said the priest. You will do 5 stations at the cross, he said, and 100 are fathers. Our man headed out, he met his friend, he said, how'd you get on? He says, 5 stations at the cross, 100 are fathers, and 3 very good leads.